You know what? Trump just did something that no president has ever done before for gun owners. He's going after state governments with affirmative action lawsuits, and the last one on his list is going to shock you. I'm talking about a completely unprecedented move from the DOJ that's making anti-gun states absolutely panic right now. For years, they've been getting away with stripping your rights piece by piece, and Trump finally said enough is enough. If you want to see how this plays out and what it means for your gun rights, hit that subscribe button immediately, because this is about to get wild. The number one, target revealed. So what is this number one issue that Trump is going after? What makes this the top priority above everything else? You might think it's the ATF and their pistol brace nonsense. Or maybe it's the assault weapon ban proposals we keep hearing about. But it's actually something that affects every single gun owner who wants to carry concealed. And it's been happening right under our noses for decades. Trump's DOJ is targeting the permit approval system itself, specifically going after sheriffs and police departments that are deliberately slow-walking concealed carry permits to the point where it becomes a de facto ban. We're talking about people waiting years, literally years, to get approved for something that's supposed to be a constitutional right. Here's what makes this the number one priority. It's not just happening in one city or one county. This pattern exists across California, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Hawaii, and about a dozen other states where may issue or shall issue laws are being manipulated. The Trump administration looked at the data and realized that millions of Americans are being denied their rights, not through legislation, but through administrative warfare. And here's the part that's going to make your blood boil. When you see the actual numbers of how many people are being affected and how long they're really waiting, you'll understand why this had to be priority number one. The shocking statistics. The shocking statistics nobody's talking about. Let me give you some numbers that the mainstream media refuses to report. Between January of 2024 and March of 2025, just in Los Angeles County alone, there were 3,682 applications submitted for concealed carry permits. Now, take a guess how many were actually approved during that time period. Go ahead. Leave your guess in the comments right now because I guarantee you're going to be shocked. The answer is 2. That's right. 2 people out of nearly 4,000 applicants got their permits approved. That's a 0.05% approval rate. But it gets worse. In Santa Clara County, they had 2,147 applications between 2023 and early 2025. Approval numbers, 0. Literally 0 approvals in over 2 years. In San Francisco County, 1,653 applications, and they approved exactly 1 person. 1. Nassau County in New York processed 8,921 applications over an 18-month period and approved 127 of them. But here's the kicker. Those 127 people waited an average of 638 days to get approved. Cook County and Illinois, which includes Chicago, had over 6,000 applications stacked up with approval rates sitting at around 3%. And those lucky few who got approved waited anywhere from 11 to 19 months. These aren't just statistics. These are real people who might need to protect themselves, their families, their businesses. But here's what these numbers don't tell you, and it's actually the most important part of this entire situation. The de facto ban. The de facto ban strategy explained. What these statistics don't show you is the intentional strategy behind these delays. See, these states and counties learned something very important after the Supreme Court rulings in Heller McDonald and especially Bruin. They learned that outright bans get struck down immediately and create massive public backlash. So instead, they developed what I call the administrative stranglehold. First, they keep the permit system in place because the Supreme Court has said that reasonable regulations are allowed. Then they create a multi-step application process that requires multiple interviews, extensive documentation, character references, sometimes even social media reviews. They'll ask for proof of training, but then they limit the number of approved training facilities, or they require specific types of training that isn't readily available. In some counties, you need to schedule an appointment with the sheriff's department just to pick up the application. And those appointments are booked out 6 months in advance. Then once you submit everything, it goes into what they call a review process. There's no timeline enforcement, no accountability, no way to check status, and no recourse if they just let your application sit in a pile. The genius of this system from their perspective is that it's technically not a denial. You can't sue for being denied if you were never officially denied. Your application is just pending indefinitely. But here's what they didn't count on. And it's why Trump's approach is so brilliant. The legal weapon Trump's using weapon. Trump's DOJ isn't using gun laws to fight this battle. They're using civil rights legislation, specifically Title 34 of the U.S. Code, Section 6001, which is part of the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. This is the same law that was used to go after police departments that engaged in patterns of discrimination and constitutional violations. And here's why this is absolutely genius. This law doesn't require proving intent. It only requires proving a pattern and practice of violating civil rights. The Trump administration is arguing that these delays constitute a deprivation of rights under color of law. That's a fancy legal term that basically means government officials are using their authority to violate your constitutional rights. And the beauty of this approach is that it's not attacking the Second Amendment from a gun rights perspective, where courts might get squeamish. It's attacking it from a civil rights perspective, which has decades of established precedent. Courts have consistently ruled that you cannot make people wait indefinitely to exercise constitutional rights. Here's the other brilliant part. By using this civil rights framework, Trump's DOJ can seek injunctive relief, which means they can force immediate changes while the lawsuit is ongoing. They can get a judge to order these departments to start processing applications within the timeframes their own laws specify. But the real power of this legal strategy goes even deeper than most people realize. Why previous administrations never did this. You might be wondering why no other president or attorney general ever took this approach before, and the answer is going to make you angry. Previous DOJs going back decades had the authority to do exactly what Trump is doing right now. They chose not to. During the Obama administration, the DOJ was actively defending gun control measures and arguing in court that states had broad authority to regulate firearms. When Washington, D.C. had its handgun ban, the DOJ under both Clinton and Bush could have brought civil rights charges. When Chicago maintained its ban, same thing. Here's what's really frustrating. During the Obama years, the DOJ brought pattern and practice investigations against over 25 police departments for various civil rights violations. They investigated Ferguson, Baltimore, Chicago PD, Cleveland, and dozens of others. They had the framework. They had the precedent. They had the authority. But not once did they investigate a single department for systematically denying concealed carry permits. In fact, they did the opposite. The Obama DOJ filed emails briefs, which are friend of the court documents, supporting states' rights to heavily regulate concealed carry. The Bush administration wasn't much better. They took a hands-off approach and basically said that gun rights issues should be resolved through the courts by private citizens filing lawsuits. Translation: you're on your own. Figure it out yourself. And that's exactly what gun owners had to do for 20 years. Organizations like the Second Amendment Foundation and individual citizens had to file lawsuit after lawsuit, spending millions in legal fees, fighting state by state, county by county. But Trump's DOJ just changed the game completely. And here's what that means for the future: the ripple effect across America. If Trump's DOJ wins this case, and based on the evidence they have, they absolutely should win. This creates a precedent that will affect the ripple effect across America, single restrictive state in the country. New York has some of the worst approval processes in the nation, with entire counties that haven't approved a single permit in years. New Jersey's system is even more restrictive, requiring justifiable need statements that are almost impossible to satisfy. Maryland, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Hawaii, they all have similar systems that slow-walk applications into oblivion. But it goes beyond just concealed carry permits. The legal framework that Trump's DOJ is using applies to any government process that delays or restricts constitutional rights. Think about states that make you wait 10 days to pick up a firearm you already purchased and passed a background check for. That's a waiting period that has no basis in public safety. It's just an inconvenience designed to discourage gun ownership. Or consider the approval process for suppressor purchases, which can take 8 to 14 months even though you've already passed the background check and paid the tax stamp. If administrative delays on concealed carry permits are unconstitutional, then administrative delays on any gun-related process are equally unconstitutional. Some states require permits just to purchase ammunition, and those permits can take months to get approved. These are all areas where Trump's civil rights approach could be applied. Once the precedent is set, you won't need to wait for the DOJ to file lawsuits. But there's one critical factor that will determine whether this actually succeeds. What needs to happen for this to work? Here's the reality that nobody wants to talk about. Trump's DOJ can file all the lawsuits they want, but the success of this entire initiative depends on 3 critical factors. First, they need federal judges who will actually enforce the law as written instead of creating legal workarounds to protect state gun control schemes. We've seen too many cases where lower courts ignore Supreme Court precedent and rule in favor of restrictions anyway, forcing gun rights organizations to appeal over and over until it reaches the Supreme Court years later. Second, these lawsuits need to survive past Trump's presidency. If Trump's DOJ files these cases, but then a new administration comes in and drops them or settles for weak compromises, all this effort was for nothing. We've seen it happen before with other civil rights cases, where a new DOJ comes in and reverses course completely. That's why getting final court rulings, not just settlements, is absolutely essential. Third, and this is the most important part, gun owners need to actually support this fight. That means staying informed, contacting your representatives, supporting organizations that file amicus briefs in these cases, and most importantly, voting in every election to ensure that leaders who respect your rights stay in power. Because here's the cold, hard truth. If gun owners don't turn out to vote, if they don't pay attention to who they're electing at the state and local level, if they don't hold politicians accountable, then even the best DOJ lawsuit in the world won't matter. The other side is organized, they're funded, and they're playing the long game. Gun owners need to do the same, and it starts with understanding exactly what's at stake right now. This isn't just about concealed carry permits. This is about whether the Constitution still means something, or whether bureaucrats get to decide which rights you're allowed to exercise and when. Like outro I said, there you go. That's my opinion on why Trump made this his #1 priority. And honestly, I think he made the right call, but I want to hear from you. Do you think going after the permit delays was the right move, or should Trump have picked something else as #1? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. And if you want to stay on top of every single move Trump's DOJ makes for gun owners, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.